So this is Sarah Milligan with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program. Today's date is May 27th, 2016. I'm at the Chilocco reunion on the Chilocco campus, and I'm talking with Richard Mendez, right? About his time at Chilocco as well as his time in the military. This is part of a Veterans History Project for the Chilocco Alumni group. Okay, so tell me a little bit about just where you're from, who your parents are, you know, do you have siblings, just a little bit about that kind of stuff.
Okay, my name is Richard Mendez. I'm from Fort Hall, Idaho, from the Shoshone Bannock tribes. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters. Actually, 3 brothers and 4 sisters. I lost a brother and a sister, so there was 10 of us in our family. My mother is, her name?
Yeah.
Elvina Mendez. She passed away a couple of years ago. And she's Shoshone from Fort Hall. My dad is, his name was Magdaleno Mendez, and he was from Mexico. He was Spanish and Aztec. And lived in Idaho most of my life. I lived off and on in Elko, Nevada also, and I went to school in the Blackfoot School District around Blackfoot, Idaho. But I didn't really do too good there. I got kind of kicked out of school, and it was in the early 60s, and they didn't allow long hair, and I had long hair, so everywhere I went they kicked me out because I wouldn't cut my hair.
Now, why wouldn't you cut your hair?
Because I didn't want to. And it's in our tribe it was traditional to have long hair, and but the schools didn't allow it back then. Everybody wore like a butch haircut and stuff like that. So, and eventually I went to Nevada and went to one school in Elko, Nevada, and they kicked me out for the same reason, because I wouldn't cut my hair. And then I went to Battle Mountain, Nevada, and they did the same thing. They let me in there for about 2 weeks, and they said, "You need to cut your hair." And I said, "No." So anyhow, I ended up coming to Chilocco, and that was in '64. And I spent 64 and 65 here. Eventually cut my hair.
Oh, really?
Well, it was not allowed to go on a date with the girls. You know, you had to have your hair cut, you had to wear a tie and a jacket. And so that got me to cut my hair. And
that seems unfair to hold that.
So anyway, I enjoyed my time here at Chilocco. Prior to that, when I was in school, I hardly ever went to school. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. And I was off running around Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Mondays. So I had older cousins that used to pick me up all the time when we'd go out. And I was only like 14, 15, 16, but I used to party with them all the time. So it was kind of bad for me, but I didn't realize it till I got here to school that I really didn't know much. But being here at Chilocco, it kind of forced me to go to school every day, forced me to learn. I enjoyed my time here. I eventually went home for the summer of '65, and I came back in the fall. But of course, I was drinking again, and
in the summer?
Yeah, so I come back here, and I was drinking when I got here. I come into Wichita, and we bought stuff in Wichita when the bus stopped there. And we got here, so I was already kind of a little bit out of it already, so I start picking fights with Navajos, which was kind of like, at that time there was probably 90% of the school kids here were Navajos. The rest of us were from all over the United States. But anyway, I got thrown in jail. And,
oh, seriously?
Yeah, and then they let me out, and I come back out, and I was here for about 2 weeks, and they gave me a choice to clean up and cut my hair. Again, I had grown my hair all summer, and they would consider letting me stay here. So I did all what they asked me to do, and then I went in to see the superintendent, and he says, well, he said, you got one problem here, is you don't like Navajos, and 90% of the school is Navajos, and all you want to do is seem to fight with them. And I said, well, I can always change my ways. He said, well, I think it's a little too late for that. I said, well, you gave me a choice to clean up or, you know, and not do this or do that, and you'd consider my staying here. He said, well, I already considered that. And he said, you're out. So I waited another couple of weeks till the tribe sent me a bus ticket to go home. And when I got home, I got to run around there, and the schools wouldn't accept me in any schools. So I decided to join the service, and join the Marines. And I was watching the newsreels on TV then about, you know, Vietnam, and this was in '65. So I went down and I went down and enlisted. I figured the fastest way to get there was to join the Marines. So that's what I did. Back to the school. My sister was here at the same time I was, Angela.
Did you all come together?
No.
No.
Well, no. Yeah, on the second time, yeah. She wasn't here the first time. In '65 she came. And then, no, I guess she was here in '64, '65. I think we came together. And then my other sister, Hortensia, came in '65 or so, around there. And I had a brother in Concho, or in, he was in Concho, and I had another sister in Fort Sill.
Oh, okay.
So we were all kind of this way, most of us anyway. So
yeah. So, well, that was the question. How did you decide to come to Chilocco? I mean, there was lots of options if you were going far away.
Well, that was the only thing available, I think, at the time.
Okay.
I don't know. My mother got the application,
Ah.
and so there were several coming here from the tribe. So I was tossed in with them. And yeah, there was other boarding schools. There was one down in Brigham City, but I didn't. That's closer to us, but I didn't know about that. I didn't know about any other schools. All I know is I was told to come here, so I came here. And I enjoyed it. Like I said, I enjoyed my time. I learned. I started going to school. I started to understand, you know, and follow everything along. So I didn't really want to go home, but I didn't have much choice when they kicked me out. So
yeah. Did you have the option to stay here over the summer at that time, instead of going back home during the summer?
No.
Yeah.
No, they just sent everybody tickets to go home on. So. And, okay, then I joined the service. Went to boot camp in San Diego. Graduated from there. Went to my training in Camp Pendleton, and then from there I had 30-day leave, and then come back to Vietnam. I went to Vietnam, shipped out.
Well, that was very quick.
Yeah. So I served with the Kilo Company, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, 1st Marine Division, from a little bit north of Da Nang all the way down to Chulai. I spent 13 and a half months there, my first tour. When I got there, they asked for volunteers, and they said, "You're a volunteer." So I went into machine guns. So I was a machine gunner, and M60 machine guns. There was.
How old were you at this point?
I was 18.
Okay.
There was 14 of us that went to training together and everything, and we went over there together. There was a whole bunch more, but these guys I went through, some of them through boot camp, some of them just through the training. They called it ITR, I think it's Infantry Training Regiment or something like that. So we got over there, and the first night we were there, that's when we got there late at night, and they said, well, we need volunteers, and everybody's going into weapons. So I went into machine guns. Half of the other guys went into rockets and mortars, and I think one other guy went with me to machine guns. And that very first night, 5 of them were killed. The first night we got there. So it was kind of a little scary, but it was like at that time, as I was told a lot through my life, I would never make nothing of myself. And so I was kind of, didn't really care whether I lived or died or whether I stayed, come back or not from Vietnam. I think after my 3rd month there, I got shot, I got wounded. Wasn't bad, just took a chunk out of my leg. And then I didn't really care. And that kind of changed my mind a little bit. Because I figured, So after that, probably about another 3 or 4 months, I got wounded again from a grenade. When we got attacked, and we got pretty well wiped out, a lot of us, a lot of our company. So I served my 13.5 months there, and then I came back, and I was stationed in Barstow, California as the military police. And we were on what they call a running guard because there were too many people. So we worked like 4 on, 8 off, 4 on, 8 off. I was there for 9 months and doing that. The only time we had any time off other than the 8 hours we had off was if we paid somebody to stand our shift. And so it was pretty hectic. So, and then plus that we had to stand inspection every time we went on duty. And we had to be perfectly dressed with our clean new uniform on every shift. And shine boots, shine brass. So after about the 2nd or 3rd month, I applied to come back to Vietnam.
So how did you end up being with the military police then?
I was just where I was assigned when when I came back from Vietnam. They assigned me and another guy. There was only 4 of us that came back. That
From
went
the
over,
original group
from the
that
original
went?
14 of us that went over there. Yeah. And me and one of the other guys, we were stationed in Barstow. The other guys went back east. And we were hoping to get back east because they went on sea duty, and they got to go around up to Naples and all that, Italy and stuff like that on a cruise. Well, it was training, but they still got to go. And here we got stuck in Barstow. Hot. Well, it was cold there. It was in November or December, just around the first part of December when we got there. And like I said, I served there for 9 months. The first 3 months, after the first 3 months, I was ready to get out of there. So I put in for Vietnam, and it took the 6 months, and I kept asking, "What's the problem? What's the problem? When am I going to get to go back?"
So you would have rather gone back to Vietnam than stay
there.
There, yeah.
And so they said, "Well, there's a whole lot of guys that need to go over there. You've already been there." So, and I kept saying, "Well, that's I got experience." So anyway, they finally gave me my orders to go back to Vietnam. So I got the chance to go home for a couple of weeks and come back, and had to go through the ITR training again for I think a month or something like that, or 3 or 4 weeks, and then I went back to Vietnam. And I was stationed up in north by the DMZ in that area with the Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines, and back into machine guns again. So.
Well, the DMZ area is a pretty rough.
Yeah, I was around by Quezon too. Quezon was really bad. So, but I think it was already. They were already done with that. They'd already moved out of there by then. See, I missed that. I missed the worst part of it, I guess, of Tet Offensive, because I came back and I went over in August or September of ⁻66, and I came back again in November, and then I went back. It was the end of November. Then I went back and again in I think it was August. So I mean, just January, February. Yeah, but around August, sometime around August and September. And so the Tet was between February and so forth. So I kind of missed that. Went back in '68 then, and we did a lot more. I guess we were out in the field a whole lot more over there. And we went as a company. When I was down south in the first tour, we were like platoon or squad size things that we did, operations and not operations, patrols. Up north was all company size because we ran into a lot of North Vietnamese regulars. So they did everything big because we had to. I got back over in machine guns, and I ended up getting put in charge as a team leader. And a little bit later on, I ended up being a squad leader. And by the time I left there, I was the acting platoon commander for weapons. We went to we went on the most, I guess the most, how would I say, the biggest thing we did was we went on an operation called Operation Dewey Canyon in the Ashaw Valley. And we were after big guns that they were shooting at us. And we were stuck in kind of like the monsoon season. It was bogged down. We didn't have hardly anything to eat. We thought they couldn't bring in our supplies because every time they tried to come in, they'd get shot up, and they couldn't see because it was all, you know, like foggy or raining all the time, off and on. And so we never got resupplied. So we had to go out looking for food, looking for something to eat. And came across a patch of pineapples, which was a big mistake. We ate those, and we had bad runs for a while. We had bananas. We ate bananas, green bananas. You could take a green banana and cut it up and boil it in rainwater. It tastes just like a boiled potato. And so we ate those.
Did you know that before you did that?
No, we tried to eat one time, and it just makes you pucker up. Yeah, green bananas. But we carried some around on our packs until they ripened. And then we found a village up there where some people they had evacuated it, but we found a bunch of rice and sardines. I think they were fish, like sardines, little sardines and stuff. And it kind of reminded me of home, because my older sister used to like to cook rice and sardines together, mix sardines in her rice. And it was, I don't know, she liked it, but I didn't care for it. But when I got there, I was so hungry, I ate whatever I could. And that's what I thought of my older sister when I was eating that. I said, oh, this is what my sister used to make.
Yeah, I was about to say, did you have that conversation? Like, this is cool to eat, because, you know, childhood.
Yeah, so we had that, and we just looked all over. We spent, like I said, 41 days out there. We lost about, I think, 3 or 4 guys the whole time we was out there out of our company. There was a lot of other ones that got into some really bad stuff and lost quite a bit of guys, but we were kind of fortunate. We did run across them guns. We kept chasing over mountain and mountain, but they had abandoned them. And I mean, they were big, like 175, you know, howitzers. They're big long guns. We found a lot of machine guns, ammo, rifles. They just left all their weapons. They kind of threw them in a big old hole pit and tried to bury them, but we found them.
So you think that they were going to come back for them later? Is that the idea? Or?
I think that's what they're thinking, but I don't think, you know, they knew we was going to destroy the guns, the big guns and stuff, because they couldn't hide them. So anyway, after that, we came back off that operation.
How long were you out in the field for that one?
That was 41 days.
Oh, 41 days, yeah.
And we came back out of that one, and I think it was, I think we had about a month or 2, or I can't remember, but we were gonna be pulled out. The 9th Marines were the first ones to get to Vietnam, so they were going to be the first ones to get pulled out when they started withdrawing in '79. Mm-hmm. So I just happened to be with them, so we were going to get ready to pull out. So they took us back into, I think it was called Qua Viet, and we were stationed back there for, I think it was about 2 weeks almost. And then they had a gun emplacement called Dong Ha Mountain. And they were taking a lot of incoming rounds from the North Vietnamese and the armies, and they were circled around them. So they dropped us in there on top of that mountain on choppers. And then the next couple of days we were up there getting ready to go out. We didn't know what was going on. We just knew we was going to go down and start looking for them. So they were going to chopper us out, and they brought the choppers in up there, and it wasn't a very big place. It was it's on top of a big old high mountain, and just a flattened area where they put their gun emplacements at. And it was just enough to land, I think, 1 or 2 choppers at a time. So they landed ours, we jumped on, and we started going up, but it took a bunch of hits. So they started telling everybody to get out, and we had some guys that just barely came over, and they were laying on the floor trying to. I say, you better get up, them rounds are going to come through there, and they were scared. And so me and our sergeant major started throwing them out the back. And that was the only way to get them out. They would not get out of that chopper. And we were taking hits. And we were the last 2 to jump out, and we were probably like about 10, 15 feet off the ground because it was just hovering up there. Mm-hmm. And we jumped out, and Sergeant Major broke his legs. I was lucky I landed all right. But the chopper went down. So, and the crews, I think, they were all killed in there. Mm-hmm. So they decided we were going to climb down, and there was only one way down and way back the other way, and that's where all the North Vietnamese were. So we start climbing down the mountain. It's very steep.
With one guy who has his legs broken.
No, he didn't. He stayed up there.
Oh, okay.
Because they had the gun emplacements there. They still had that up there. They had security around there.
Okay.
So we went down, and we were going down. We got down the mountain. We was going around, and these ones come running out there and shooting at us. So some of them, that one platoon took off after him and said, "Hey, get back here! Don't do that." They followed him anyway. And they got almost all of them got wiped out right there. There was an ambush. They just set them up. And so we went over and helped them and got them medevaced out, and then we went up this what they called Hill 126, and that they had a double circle of perimeter of North Vietnamese, and they just blasted the heck out of us, and it lasted for 2 days, and I don't know, so we lost just about everybody. I had 9 machine gunners, and I only had 1 left when we got done. And my rockets, I had one of my guys from rockets. There was like 6 of them. Mm-hmm. So we pretty much got all wiped out. There was only like about 25, maybe 30 of us that walked out of there. Wow. The rest of them were either wounded or killed. And that was just before we was going home. So that was kind of spooky. We got out of there, and we went back to, I'm pretty sure that's Quaviet's what they call that place. We went back there, and we was there for about a week and a half before they pulled us out, took us down, and we loaded up on ships and headed to Okinawa. Mm-hmm. I was on USS Paul Revere. I used to think that was kind of funny, but I had a friend that was joined in the Navy, and he was on one called the USS Peter Rabbit. They name them like that. So anyway, I got to Okinawa, and they said, "Well, you've got a choice. You can go home, or you can stay here, because you only got 1 more month. And if you had less than 6 months, they let you out early." And so I opted to stay so that I could get out early instead of having to serve the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I ended up serving 3 months in Okinawa. I was platoon commander for weapons and platoon commander for 2nd Platoon because we had lost all of our officers and most of our people from there. I was a corporal, E4, and we had another guy that was a corporal that was in charge of 1st Platoon, and then we had one sergeant that was in charge of 3rd Platoon. Mm-hmm. And then we had our CO was, our commanding officer was, I think he was a 1st lieutenant, but he was one of our only officers left that didn't get killed.
In that last?
Yeah, that last little thing.
Yeah. So
we were all pretty much in charge, so I kind of stayed there for a couple of months till we built our platoon back up and our company back up.
Did you have the choice to leave earlier? It sounded like you did. But
they said I could have left earlier, but no, I decided to stay there, and it was cool because when you first time we went well, I went to Okinawa when I first went to Vietnam. They let us have a week there, and we could go to town and go out, but we had to be back by midnight. And same way when I came back home, they let us have a week there, and then when I went back again, the same thing. And so this time that we said, well, we're doing the job of an officer. Why can't we have officers' hours? Why can't we stay out all night? And they said, okay, yeah, as long as you're back by 8 o'clock in the morning when you got to have your platoon out, stand muster. So we said, oh, good. But they said, you can't go to officers' mess to eat with the officers or the officers' club. So anyway, it was cool. We got to do a lot of things, and I got malaria while I was there too in Okinawa. I guess it was from Vietnam, but I was sick for a couple of weeks, and that was about the only bad thing about that. So then I got stabbed one night by some Puerto Ricans over there, so I almost got killed in two tours in Vietnam, and almost got killed.
Holy cow! What happened?
In Okinawa. I was just drunk walking down the street, and I don't know. I don't really know. I was so out of it already. I don't know if I ought to say this, but I used to go to this one bar all the time, and I had a girlfriend that owned another bar, and we got mad at each other one night. So I went down to this other bar, and I used to go there if I ever wanted to get drunk, I just go there, because first time I went there, that guy filled up I ordered a shot of vodka, and he filled up a glass.
Like an 8-ounce glass.
Yeah, and he said, if you can drink that all down, drinks are on me all night. So anytime. So that night I did that. I went down there and I drank that up, and then I was there drinking it for quite a while. Then I decided to go clear across to this other place. And it was kind of bad there, because there was guys that used to, people that hung around. If you're by yourself, they'll jump you, take your money or whatever. And I just happened to be by myself, and I don't really remember too much. I just remember them pushing me against the car, and I saw a flash, and they actually jabbed me and sliced it right in here. And there was military police were sitting across the road watching the whole thing, I guess. But I didn't know. I just remember I was laying on the table and they were sewing me up, and I kind of come to, and I woke up and I said, what the hell are you guys doing to me? They said, we're putting you back together. And I said, oh.
So did the military police actually know that you were military?
Yeah.
And they do something afterwards, or?
Yeah. They got it. They picked them up and everything, but then they took me into the hospital.
I see.
But then they wanted me to go downstairs and identify them. I said, how am I supposed to identify them? I don't even know who they are. I don't even know, all I remember is them pushing me against the car, and I seen that flash, And they said, they said, well, we were sitting there, we saw it. I said, well, then you guys ought to know who it is. They said, yeah, but we need you to say it. So I said, okay, that's them. And then after that, I got out and came home. They flew us into Travis Air Force Base in San Francisco, and then we were there for about a week and a half. They wouldn't pay us, so we had to, because they didn't want us taken off anywhere, I guess. I don't know. They wouldn't pay us, and we had money coming, so I had my mom send me some money there, and then they said, well, we're decided we're going to take you to El Toro Air Base, Marine Air Base in Anaheim, Santa Ana, right by Anaheim. And you guys will get out there. So they loaded us on these, what they call cattle cars, the big old trucks with
side rows
cattle
to sit
cars,
on?
yeah, with seats in them. And then they give us back us a bag lunch. And so we rode down on those all the way to Santa Ana. Then we were there for another, I think, couple of weeks or 2 or 3 weeks. And they came around one day and they said, well, anybody here didn't finish school, we're going to be doing classes for GEDs. So I took my GED classes there, and I got done with that, so since I didn't make it here. And after that, I got out and I went home. Got in trouble. Messed around there as soon as not too long after I got home. somebody said I hit a car when I backed out of the bar. I was in Elko, Nevada, and I know I didn't touch that car. And I was sitting home at my house on my car outside, drinking a beer. And so they come and it's not legal to drink in Nevada outside. You can drink there. So they came in, but they still arrested me for leaving the scene of an accident and drunk in or about an automobile. And they gave me 30 days, and I think it was a $150 fine. Suspended my license for a year. And so after I got done with that, I went back. I was home for about 2 or 3 weeks, and one of my friend's brothers killed himself in Ely, Nevada, which was quite a ways from Elko, so we drove up there for his funeral. We was coming back, and we stopped in this little town, Wells, and we bought a 6-pack of beer, and we took off. And I guess they called the police on us and told them, because they used to do that to the Indians, they'd tell on you. And so we just got about 10 miles out of Wells, and here comes the state police and pulled us over. So I was driving, which I didn't have a license. I was drinking, so I ended up spending 72 days out of 90 days in jail for that, and $350 fine. And my license was suspended for another year. And then the judge told me, if you ever get caught again, you'll never drive. So I guess it's time to get out of Nevada. So I went back to Idaho, Fort Hall, where I'm from, and I did a little bit of work, just whatever I could find. And then I went to school at Haskell. Took civil tech. Well, I went to school. I started school at Idaho State University for civil technology, and before I went to school, I was working in Nevada for a while. I was working with the surveying outfit, and I worked there for about 6-8 months.
Like doing land surveys.
Yeah, this guy taught me all kinds of how do you do all the work with the theodolite and all that stuff, So I said, well, I think I'll go to school and get me a degree. So what do you need school for? He said, I can teach you everything you need to know. And I said, yeah, but I have to have that little piece of paper. And so that's when I went to school, and I started ISU in civil technology, but the only thing we did was go up on the hill and shoot backsites down. That was the amount of surveying in that class. So I said, well, that ain't for me. So I was going to go to Logan, Utah, which is one of the best schools there around for engineering and surveying and stuff. But by the time I got done with figuring out all my scholarships and my veterans and everything like that, I would have to be living on like about $5 or $6 a month. So I said, nah, I ain't gonna do it. So I found out about Haskell. They had a survey and a mapping class. So I went to Haskell, and it was free. So I went to Haskell, took their drafting design, and then when it came time for our surveying and mapping class, our instructor quit, and he left, went to work somewhere. And so me and another guy, Charlie from Farmington, New Mexico, we taught the class for credit. So, but all we could do is go out and measure the football field and all kind, different terraces, because that's all they did was terracing work and stuff like that around there. And I did my last year. My wife graduated. Before my wife graduated, I got married there. I had to wait for her, so I took extra classes, and I worked with the surveying and mapping, with the soil and conservation, doing surveying and mapping with them. And that was part of my credit also for that extra year I went to school. Plus that I worked out at Kansas City Structural Steel in Kansas City. So we got married then. To my wife, we've been married since then, so it's been 41 years. So from there I went back to Idaho. I was working at the cafeteria too. I got a job there. At Haskell? Yeah, so I was a cook there. I worked in a bakery for 3 months, and I was a cook for the rest of the time. And I had a steady job, but I didn't want to stay there. I got a job with the Idaho National Engineering Laboratory out in Idaho at the nuclear site, and I didn't never get back into surveying, but I did drafting and design. And I worked there for about a year, and then I got into designing, and I worked there for another 11 years as a designer. But in the meantime, I was still kind of boozing it up. And so I decided I wanted to quit drinking, and I didn't know how to do it, so I figured, well, maybe if I go to church, I'll settle down. So I started going to church, and I started getting involved in the church. And
Which church?
Episcopal. And pretty soon I got so involved in the church, they start having me do this and do that and do that. So I got more involved, and I started losing interest in my job. And so I was asked by the bishop if I wanted to seek holy orders, and I said, well, I might. So I decided to, and they had a training program there, that they said within 2 years you could be ordained as a deacon, and then another couple of years as a priest. So anyway, to make a long story short, I was there 5 years, and they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't ordain me, and they just kept putting it off. And I'd had a 3-year scholarship for seminary in Chicago, and I kept putting that off, and hoping they'd get something done. And then finally they said, they wouldn't do it. So my bishop said, well, I'm going to send you to seminary for a year. And then he said, you've probably got more classes than any of them do, will. So I went to seminary in Seabury Western Theological Seminary in Chicago, or Evanston, Illinois. Came back, and they still wouldn't ordain me. So
Didn't they give you a reason?
No, I don't know. It's just like when I first started, I told them I had a scholarship. I was going to seminary, and they said, "Oh, you don't need that. You're just going to be on the reservation." So in other words, you're just going to be talking to a bunch of dumb Indians. Mm-hmm. So that was what I figured they felt. And when they seen that I was making more progress than most of the people and doing everything, and plus that I was doing things in the church for several years before that. I was leading church services. I did funerals. I did stuff like that. And so I don't know what the reason was, but I was supposed to come back from seminary in 2 weeks before I graduated and be ordained, and then go back and get my graduate. And when I came back, they wouldn't ordain me, and so I went back. And one of the guys that I knew, a friend, was from Wyoming. There was actually 3 guys there from Wyoming, and so they told the bishop what happened and all this and that. And then he called me one time and asked me, "You been ordained yet?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, it's been June, July, August, October, November, December, November, 6 months." And they told me they'd ordain me when I got back, and they didn't. And then they said, "Well, we'll wait a couple of months and then we'll do it." And then they didn't. And then, so they kept putting me off. So he said, "Well, if you want to come to Wyoming, I'll ordain you." So I went to Wyoming in January of 1990, and I was ordained there. Served Wyoming for 5 years, and then I went to Utah. I was there for 17 years, and I retired in the 1st of January 2012. So stayed retired for a while, then I went back to work in a treatment center, just working. But it was, Mm-hmm. But that's when I quit drinking too and everything. So I haven't, mm-hmm. that was my main goal, was to quit drinking. And
that seemed to lead you somewhere else.
Yeah, it was a challenge, because it was. When you go to seek holy orders, you have to go to a psychiatrist and all this and that. You have to go through a lot of stuff, and they recommended me not to get into that. To our standing committee and
your psychiatrist.
The church. Yeah, he recommended that to the church, and he said the only way to help me is to commit myself for 6 months. Mm. And that really got me mad. So I said, I can do it, So that was a push, mm-hmm. And so I did it. I quit. I had a hard time, but my brother's a Baptist minister, and he helped me through. So I stayed away from my friends and family that still drank for almost a year, mm-hmm. in order to make sure nobody was going to bring me back. And all the times I had other times I couldn't, I tried to quit, but I went back to it because I didn't really want to. I guess I didn't really want to make that commitment. And everything I tried never worked. And so my brother told me one time, he said, "Did you ever ask God?" I said, "No." So one day he was doing a revival service, and I went over there and I did. I said, I asked God, I said, "I would do anything if you would take that want and desire of alcohol from me." And after that, I never had a desire or want to drink. So it took me longer to quit cigarettes, but I quit.
Not as easy of a process.
Yeah,
not that any of it was easy, but
I quit in '81 smoking, and started back a year and a half ago.
Oh, really?
Worked in a casino. There's nothing but smoke. They had a room about as big as this, a little casino about as big as this room out here. Bad ventilation. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And then that's the only time I was working security. That's the only time we got to go outside, was to go out and take a break, was if you went out and have a smoke.
Oh, yeah.
So I started just going out and puffing on it. And after a while I started inhaling. So I'm back at that. But that's my life. I'm married. I have 2 kids. My son just turned 40 in April, and my daughter's 36. My son has 4 kids, 3. He has 5, but 3 of them are his. So those are my grandkids, plus all the numerous brothers and sisters' grandkids are my kids' grandkids.
Yeah.
But my wife is named Josephine.
Josephine.
She's a Navajo.
Oh no!
So I said, God got back at me.
I was about to say, I'm sure
All I did was fight with Navajos all my life, and then what did he do? He make me marry one.
So are you involved with any kind of veterans groups? Like, since you got out of the military, do you still have a connection to the military?
I'm a life member of the VFW. But right now, this was when I was in Utah. Since I've been back to Idaho, no. Because they have a veterans group there, but they're kind of like on their own. They don't associate with most of. We got a lot of Vietnam veterans back there, but they've only got about 4 or 5 that they even talk to.
In the VFW?
Yeah, in the Fort Hogg Veterans Group. I don't know what they call themselves or what they do, but the only time they want people to come is when they do powwows or something. They want somebody to carry the flags. We did have a pretty good group in Utah. We were involved with the schools and stuff like that. We did flag raising for the schools on Veterans Day. Took them little flags, took them little poppies or something every year. We'd give them something. We'd raise the flags, and they would sing for us and stuff like that. And we'd talk to them about our experiences and things like that. So it was kind of neat. But since I've been back to Idaho, no, I haven't really been too involved.
Anything specific? Because you mentioned that they really only want to see you to carry the flags at the powwow. Anything specific for Native Americans, veteran groups you've ever been involved in?
Like what I just said.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
Well,
I didn't know if that was specifically Native American or if that was larger.
It's just Native American.
Okay.
Yeah, we have our own post.
Okay.
Can't remember what the number was. But anyway, when I first got back and we started a Vietnam Veterans Post in Idaho Falls, specifically because they were kind of offering us counseling and stuff like that for people. At that time we didn't know about post-traumatic stress. Yeah, and so they were offering us counseling and stuff like that, but the VFW club, where they wanted us to go was, old World War II people and stuff like that, and they had their little rituals they wanted to do, and we didn't feel like we were any part of that. So we didn't want to associate with them. Plus that you walk in there, it's a bar, they're drinking. We didn't want their counselors because they had no experience. They had no understanding what fighting was, what war was about.
So their counselors didn't have an understanding
No,
of combat?
they would have learned everything from the books. So we didn't want that, so we wanted to start our own post. So we started our own group, and we wanted to counsel each other. And so we knew what was our problem was, and that was alcohol. And for some of them drugs, marijuana. Drugs weren't too bad as they are now, but mostly alcohol. So we called ourselves the Freedom Birds, and I guess it went out years ago. I haven't been back for home for so long, you know. And I seen one guy with a jacket yet. I don't know what happened to mine, but I seen him and I asked him. He said, "Oh no, I just got this from somebody else." And then I found out that they had changed their post to something else. So. But yeah, they're still around. But they meet on I think the third Wednesday of every month. But I'm always working or busy or something. I haven't been able to go up there yet. So other than that, no.
No. So I'm curious about why you're here at the Chilocco reunion. Like, what brings you down here?
Well, I had a choice to make.
Uh-huh.
We're having our Marine Corps reunion, our company, our Kilo company in Savannah, Georgia in November. And we have one every 2 years. And I figured it costs too much to go down there, you know, to fly and to stay the night, rent a car, everything like that. And I figured, oh, we'll just drive to Chilocco. I haven't been here and I've been wanting to come. So my wife and I said, okay, we're going to go. So we drove down here. And I thought maybe I'd see some people I know, which I ran into a few, but not too many.
Yeah.
There's only one guy left of all the guys that I came to school with here. The others of them are all gone. So, and he didn't come. But I mean, I know there was another guy here from Fort Hall that came after me. And one of the girls that was here when I was here, she's here. So, but that's about it. And I just wanted to come down and see. I haven't been here for a long time, so see what it looked like. Last time we drove through here was in '94, somewhere. Yeah, we drove through here and drove around the campus, but there was no casino, nothing around here. And we just come from visiting my brother in Texas, and we thought we'd drive up to Oklahoma City and visit a friend and then come up this way.
So the gates weren't locked then?
Yeah. So that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. That's
well,
my life in a nutshell.
You're very succinct.
So.
Well, I think I'll release you back into the wild just because it's close to 4.
Okay.
But I appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you.